Hello, and welcome to another bonus episode of Oops, We Broke the Multiverse podcast. I'm your host, Anthony O'Neill. To my right, doing something weird with his mouth, is Sean Cruz, and across the table is Anthony Gabba.
How's it going?
Hey.
Wow.
What's up, girl?
So, Sean, take it away. What are we doing on this boner episode?
What?
The bonus episode.
No. You're getting this mixed up with our Playboy podcast.
I
Ooh.
thought I heard. Okay. So we're playing Boners in the Dark. Sorry, Blades in the Dark. And this episode, the whole point of this is just kind of give you an intro into the game, explain what we're doing. You may or may not have heard of this game before. So we're going to give you this kind of introduction to it. And then we're going to be playing it for a series of episodes. So Blades in the Dark. It's developed by John Harper. It's published by Evil Hat Productions. Before we get into the game itself, why don't we talk about what was interesting, what caught our attention? Why is this the first game we're playing, right? So
I'm sorry, I'm still laughing about boners in the dark.
Tell us, Sean, why did you pick this game first?
okay, no shit. We made a big list of games. We're like, oh, this would be cool. This would be cool. None of us knew anything about Blades in the Dark. Am I right?
Nope.
Yeah. We were just like, what a cool fucking name. Blades in the Dark.
Like, I heard about it once from somebody, but I didn't really get the concept of it.
Yeah.
So it was just like, oh, that sounds like a cool game.
And mind you, like the list had cool shit like Star Wars and all this other
Yeah.
stuff. And I'm like, Blades in the Dark.
Let's start with that one.
Fuck yeah. So
America.
I actually, you guys bought me the book, right?
You got me, Anthony O'Neill.
Yeah,
You
O'Neill
bought
bought
the
him the
book.
book.
Yeah, it's your Christmas gift, you cocksucker.
Oh my God. Anthony O'Neill bought me the book for Christmas. And so, because I was showing interest in it, I was like, I'm going to do that one. That's going to be my first one. He bought me the book. I started reading it, and man, it's so different. Like I'm pretty inexperienced as it pertains to like role playing other games than D&D. But I'm reading through this. I'm like, wow, the mechanics are new and different. I'm just like, Jack Skellington, what's this? Like it's such a cool world, and looked really fun. So I mean, that's what got me about it. And you guys were just kind of along for the ride, I guess, huh?
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Okay. Well, let's explain the world. So, Blades in the Dark takes place in kind of a Victorian era sort of city. After a great cataclysm happens, it knocks out the sun. And so it's always dark in this city. And when the cataclysm happened, it also fucking released the barrier or opened the barrier between the living and the dead. So there's not only ghosts and evil spirits, there's also demons and shit running around this world. Society rebuilt itself, and they've caught up now to like where they're in the Victorian era, as I said.
Steam era.
Yeah, kind of steampunky, a little bit. There is some, basic technology. They built a wall of lightning to keep out all the spirits and demons and shit, but there are still ghosts and whatnot in the city.
So I kind of imagine it like Ghostbusters with their proton packs. Like that's what the wall's made
Pretty
out
much.
of.
Yeah, exactly. How fucking cool is that?
Yeah.
Like steampunk Ghostbusters.
So how does this come into the story? Well, because society is trapped in these walls of lightning, and any city you go to in this world is going to be covered, have that barrier. Everybody's pretty much, rats in a cage, like, so it gets really heated. These are crime-ridden, corrupt cities. And there are a bunch of different gangs that run these towns. The one that we're focusing on is called Duskville. And in Duskville, there are, noble families. There are high-powered gangs. There's lowly gangs such as ours, Silent but Deadly, that we're starting out with. Mm-hmm. And your whole goal of this game is to kind of, get to the top, climb that ladder to get some power so your life doesn't have to be quite as shitty within the walls.
That's kind of one of my favorite things about this game is that it reminds me so much of playing like Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, where it's just turf war all around the entire thing because there's so many different gangs and factions and shit.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I feel like, yeah, fucking San Andreas. One of my
Yeah.
favorite games when I was a kid that I could never actually play at my house because my mom didn't let me play it because it was a very violent game and you shouldn't let kids play that game.
It is a
Yeah.
very violent game.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great analogy. The other one I used was like Gangs of New York.
Yeah, that one
Yeah.
too.
Fucking love that movie, and like, oh, how cool are all these different gangs? And each of the gangs have their own little gimmick, right? And their cool names and stuff. So in Blades in the Dark, they're kind of like in Dungeons and Dragons, and I'll compare this to D&D a lot, just because I think that's probably one of the more popular role-playing games. We have character archetypes. In this game, it's the Cutter, the Hound, the Leech, the Lurk, the Slide, Spider, or Whisper. Pretty simple. And then if you die, you could become a spirit, you could become an undead, vampire. You know, there's other cool stuff. So when you die, you don't necessarily die, which is kind of rad.
There's no easy exit to this game.
No.
Nope, you're stuck forever.
Yep. Duskfall, is living hell.
When you say use the back door here, we're talking about something entirely different.
So for our
Goddamn.
game, for example, in our game we'll be playing, we've got Anne Marie as a slide, and that's kind of like they use more persuasion or trickery,
It's a consort.
deception, those kinds of things. They're very good with people. They're good talkers. It's a fun character to be. O'Neill, you are Avarice, which is a lurk, right? Give us a little overview of that.
A lurk is a shifty thief-like character who isn't very good with people, but he is good at hunting people. He's very good at setting traps, ambushes, good with the blade, very good at like just kind of blending into his own surroundings, even when he's like out in the light. Which there's not much light here in Duskfall, but like in a tavern or something where there is actual light, he could just blend in the crowd because he's just a nondescript human. Although he does look like he is from the Isles of Hawaii, which in this game it's called the Dagger Isles, which is where he's from.
All right, thank you. And Gabba, your character is called Mr. X, and he is a leech. What is a leech?
So a leech is kind of fancy alchemist, basically. He plays with all sorts of potions. His main weapon is his bandolier full of concoctions. You can carry a few of them with him. His blowgun works too. You put syringes in there, fill it with chemicals.
What's a bandolier?
You know, like the old Western movies. Like the belt across the chest
Bullet
that has
belt.
bullets in it.
Oh, okay.
But instead of that,
You-
it's got slots for vials.
You've said that every episode so far, and in my head I just think of like the guitar, like the old lute kind of guitar, but like
A banjo?
yeah, but like I don't know. I'm stupid.
Well, we'll work around it.
Yeah,
Um,
we'll make up for it.
so yeah, and they're not necessarily fighters up close, fighter from a distance. He deals in like poisons and things. They're actually the purveyors of drugs in this town. Leeches are in Duskfall, so they're very like, I'll get you, motherfucker, but I ain't gonna slap you. Like, I'm gonna get you in other ways. Better fucking check your drinks.
I'll give you the tickle, but I ain't gonna slap you.
Yeah.
I ain't gonna slap
So-
that pickle.
In the game, you create a gang, and your character, in D&D, we always create these heroes that are going to save the day. We're going to beat the dragon. We're going to beat the evil Dark Lord. That's not this game. You are the assholes. You are the villains trying to, you're cutthroat. You're trying to climb that ladder, right? So, when you think of your character, you're like, what kind of skills can I use to fuck somebody over, basically? And all these archetypes are built that way. Same with the crew creation. So we have assassins, bravos, which is like fighters, a cult, straight up cultists,
All right, that sounds like fun.
hawkers, shadows, and smugglers. So we chose assassins, or I should say the group chose assassins.
We chose assassins.
Right. And their gang is called Silent But Deadly.
Now talk about like a special feature of like what can we do in this game?
Yes, please do.
Oh, okay. So usually what happens is if you kill somebody in this town, like there's bells that go off. They call them the death bells, and Death Eaters show up, and I don't know
They're not Death Eaters.
Yeah,
That's
not
Harry
a sponsor.
Potter. Yeah.
The Death Crows show up and just alarm everyone to that there's now a dead person there and a ghost is going to come up. So it makes like kind of heists or like other kinds of trickery really hard because there's no real way to get around the whole death thing, except for we are assassins. Our little gang is a group of assassins, and we've learned through ritual how to get around the bells not going off and the death crows not showing up. And yeah, our ritual is one of a kind.
Yes, you'll hear it in the episode.
Yeah.
No spoilers.
So, yeah. Essentially, when somebody dies in this city, they're going to come, like you were saying, and they're trying to prevent like more spirits from entering the city. So they actually use those spirits and they throw it right into the electric fence, basically, to power it. So if you die, your soul, your spirit is going to be part of the protection wall. So it's kind of crazy. They're kind of like the electric company, but far more morbid. Anyway, one of the cooler features of this game is the action. Okay, so any of you that have played D&D, rolling for initiative and all that stuff is a fun mechanic in D&D, but it can also be very tedious and drag the fights on. When you do an action in this game, you can just say, I want to do this action. The GM will figure out, okay, is that a risky position, control position, desperate position? Based on that, you'll roll some D6s. You only use D6s in this game, and then you make your roll. Those rolls are based on, or the amount of dice you get are based on the skill sets that you put on your character sheets. And we'll be able to post some links maybe to the game and to some of these free downloads that Evil Hat has on their website, which is super cool. It's very easy to get started on Blades in the Dark. You buy the book, you download the free content, and you're on your way. So shout out to them for making it so easy to get into this.
Give them the website. I mean, we'll post it too, but tell them what it is.
It's evilhat.com.
There you go.
Yeah.
Check it out, folks. They got more games too.
Yeah,
they all
they
look
do.
pretty awesome.
They do.
Yeah, they have a lot of good games.
Yeah, we're going to ride that bitch. We're going to get up all in every hole.
We'll eventually have to pay some royalties. But.
So with your actions, you tell me how they go once you do them. You'll have what's funny, and you guys may have noticed this, is that you're set up 50% of the time you're going to fail. So a 1 through 3 on any roll is a fail. So 50% of the time. But the cool part about this game is you have ways out of it. Mm-hmm. You can help each other with your rolls. You can do what's called a devil's bargain, which is when the GM will say, okay, you failed, but you still want to succeed. Tell you what, I'm going to do this to you, which is probably a setback, but you succeed in that thing. You want to do that? Or your buddies can give you dice to help out with your rolls. So then the other part is a flashback. So the players can be like, cool, I'm going to do a flashback. Think Ocean's 11, right? Where you see them do something really awesome. And you're like, how the fuck did they do that? And they pop up and like, haha, we outsmarted you. And then they would do the flashback showing here's all the work they did to get to that point. You as a player can say, I want to do a flashback. We actually did think about that, and here's our conversation. So it kind of cut scenes back. It's a really cool mechanic. So usually these scoundrels are going to figure out a way to get through it, even though the odds are kind of against you all the time. So last thing I think I want to talk about is kind of how is this game different from D&D, and we've sort of brought that up a lot.
Yeah.
A lot less rules, less math, and the mechanics are easier. The job and activity setups take a little more time. The action goes smoother. There's no initiative, and the game flow, I would say, is pretty easy. Again, they say it's more like a conversation than really kind of breaking out your pencil and your rulers and getting all the math done. So after playing it, what are your first impressions? We've already played a few sessions. How do you guys feel about it so far?
Well, just like you said, like you are set up for failure here. Like you touched on like how 1 through 3 is an automatic fail. 4 and 5 aren't necessarily a good roll either.
That's true, yeah.
Like those are still like you succeed, but there's a consequence that happens. Like the only true roll where you do something perfectly and get away with it is a 6. You have to roll it, or else you either fucking flat out fail or you succeed. Kinda.
Yeah.
You kind of do it.
Yep. The 1 out of 6 rolls is going to get you a you just did what you said you wanted to do. Otherwise, you're gonna have a complication.
2 out of 6, it's like having sex with me. Like I did it, but wasn't the greatest thing ever.
Right now, I have syphilis.
That's all you got?
Yeah.
Jesus.
What do you think, Anthony?
I think it's a lot of fun. Definitely the biggest thing for me is less math. I love D&D to death, but there's way too much shit to count in that one.
Oh God.
It gets a little overwhelming, especially when you start getting into the higher levels.
Mhm.
You know, and at some point it feels like some of the roles end up like there's no point to it. You know, like a rogue with 20 dexterity. You know, with all the bonuses they get, fucking plus 15 to your roll. Like, who cares? You know.
Yeah.
And it's such like D&D, like not to shit on D&D because it's a great game, but like it's such a popular game now that people have just been min-maxing everything. You know, like taking the minimum amount of stats for like their weak stats and just maxing out their like best stats and then just running shit like that.
Well, that's fine if you're just playing the game.
Yeah,
But if we're trying to do, more like what we're doing,
yeah,
it's gonna be more interesting to fuck up your stats a little bit.
yeah, and we're trying to do that here on Oops, We Broke the Multiverse podcast. Is like really just tell a good story.
Mm-hmm.
Let it
we
be.
want to make it entertaining, but also, yeah, we're
Yeah.
learning. You're
Learning.
learning. Yeah.
Let's
I think
fail
that's
together.
a very good point about the stats because I don't have like monster cards and stuff in this game.
Yeah.
Like based on what you're doing, I will say, yeah, the person or whatever died. You don't, as a GM, it's easier to do. It's easier to GM this game than it is Dungeons and Dragons because you have players that are super strict about like, hey, that that monster can't do that because they may have played with that monster before. It's like, oh my goodness, you're far more imaginative, creative here as long as you're within the boundaries of Duskville, right? So okay, well, that pretty much wraps up my take on the game and kind of where we are so far with Blades. We haven't finished our campaign obviously yet, but we'll keep going. If you guys have any questions about it, be sure to comment on any of our social media. We're happy to answer what we know.
Patreon.
Or point you in the right direction. Absolutely with the Patreon as well.
Creating a community.
That's the best way.
All right, and thank you for listening to Oops, We Broke the
Pultimers.
the Pultimers
Thanks for listening to My Mama's Purse.
Modcast. And thanks for listening to Oops, We Broke the Multiverse podcast.
Woo! You did it.
I did it. I'm a real boy.
This is going to be great. It's
Yeah.
going to be a great podcast.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Listen to us. Please pay for our Patreon. I swear. So I can get the help I need.
He needs speech therapy pretty badly.
Again.